Hey everybody, my name is Danny George. I'm a colleague and friend of Dr. Myers at Penn State College of Medicine in our Department of Humanities. I'm thrilled that you all are taking this course, and many, many years ago I did my graduate work at Oxford University, so it's a very special place, a very beautiful place, and I'm very excited for you all to spend a couple of weeks there immersing yourselves in a lot of different cool learning and cultural experiences. Um, so, just a very brief bit about me. I study dementia, Alzheimer's disease, brain aging in my academic work, but over the years I've gotten increasingly interested in medicinal plants. It's just a sort of side hobby, side passion. And this grew out of my experience starting a farmer's market and being a part of a team that started a community garden on our hospital campus. And I was fortunate in that process to befriend a bench scientist at the medical center named Wade Idris. He's a local farm boy who sort of grew up and worked for big pharma, but is also extremely knowledgeable about local medicinal and edible plants, native plants in the region. And so I've ended up soaking a lot of his knowledge up about the plants in our area, and some of which I'm going to share with you today in a very brief video that I'm going to make just as sort of primer to work that we're going to do together later in May. So what I want to do is basically just take you into the woods with my iPhone and show you a couple of really interesting medicinal plants that grow in the woods right behind the medical center, literally in the shadow of the med center. So when we meet on Zoom in May, we'll talk a little bit more about the history of human engagement with plants, and we'll actually be asking you to pick a plant out with a partner and explore its biochemistry, explore its mechanisms of action, and also the way that humans have constructed meaning around that plant throughout the last several thousands of years. And then, in May, when you're on site in Oxford, you'll actually have a session at the Botanic Garden where you'll hopefully get to see and interact with one of the plants that you've chosen. We're going to provide a list for you of the plants that they grow at that Botanic Garden in Oxford, which is quite old and storied, and they grow a lot of great medicinal plants there that you can pick from. So anyhow, just going to give you an overview of I don't know, about 5 or 6 plants that are growing in the footsteps of our hospital here, and model how you might engage with plants in terms of studying their biochemistry and also their the construction of meaning around them and the way that they're embedded in sort of myth and folk traditions. So obviously I am not a TikToker or an Instagram influencer, so the production quality on this is not going to be great. So maybe lower your expectations, but enjoy the sort of passion and information that we'll be following for the next 15 minutes or so. All right, I look forward to meeting everybody later in the spring, and I appreciate you all for taking the time to watch this. Take care. Hey everybody, so I've just stumbled upon a plant in the woods called snowdrop or galanthus, and it's a pretty remarkable plant that comes up usually in January or February in the north. And I'll just take you in for a closer look here. It's quite a beautiful little plant with this little delicate white flower, but obviously a very hardy plant that grows through the winter and the cold. Now, from a medicinal perspective, a compound in this plant is actually extracted and has been developed into a cholinesterase inhibitor called razidine or galantamine, and it's been approved in over 80 countries. It's not a great drug, but it is a cholinesterase inhibitor that is used in the care of people with Alzheimer's type dementia. Now, this plant has been known for thousands of years, even back into ancient mythology. So if anybody read the Odyssey, for instance, you'll remember the characters of Odysseus and Circe. Circe, of course, leads the sirens, and she lures sailors to crash their boats on her shores. And one way that she does this is with a drug called Jimson weed. She takes an extract from Jimson weed, which causes delirium. It's a very powerful anticholinergic drug. In the Odyssey, Hermes gave Odysseus and his men snowdrop, this plant right here, because of its very powerful cholinergic effects to counter Cersei's use of Jimson weed. So there was sort of biochemical plant warfare, even going back thousands of years into ancient Greece. But this is a wonderful plant that, again, comes up really early in the year, pops through the snow, pushes through the cold, and has some really remarkable medicinal traits. So that is snowdrop. So what I want to show you today is notable for multiple reasons, but primarily because this is the medical center right here, and I'm just a stone's throw away from it, and there's some pretty cool plants growing just in the shadow of the hospital. So what I want to show you first connects to a video I did earlier about snowdrop, and this was the cholinergic plant, and I referenced that Circe used an anti-cholinergic plant that Odysseus and his men had to counter with snowdrop. And I'm going to show you what that plant was. It's called Jimson weed, and you can see right here. Not the most impressive plant at the moment, but I can promise you that it is quite a formidable one once it gets going. You can see here it's got kind of spiky seed pods. This plant is ancient and probably originated in Central America. It's called Datura stramonium in Latin. It's listed on the World Health Organization's list of essential medications. Sometimes it's called nightshade or deadly nightshade. If anybody watched Game of Thrones, this plant was referenced. So medicinally, it produces compounds atropine and scopolamine, and these are the anticholinergic agents. And so the plant has been used in indigenous medicine for a long time. It would be smoked because it's a smooth muscle relaxant, so it was a treatment for asthma or other respiratory illnesses to sort of relax the lungs. There can be extracts of atropine and scopolamine acquired from boiling the seeds of the plant, and the plant actually gets its name, Jimson weed, from Jamestown, the Virginia colony. And there were British troops who accidentally boiled a bunch of the seed pods as food and ate them, and had to be jailed for basically 2 weeks because of the delirium that it caused. So Jimson weed is a highly psychoactive plant, but it does have utility in medicine, and I'll just come back down again and show it. So hospitals are advised to keep Jimson weed on hand in case of nerve gas attacks. Nerve gases are basically pesticides which are highly cholinergic. They kind of short out insects and cause them to die. So Jimson weed is a powerful anticholinergic agent and can be used to counter nerve gas. Soldiers on modern battlefields will have little injection syringes where if they're exposed to nerve gases, they will inject compounds from this plant into them to counter the chemical effects of the nerve gas. So a very cool plant, psychotropic in nature. It's said to create some very dark occult experiences for people who use it. I would not advise it, but it is used in some indigenous ceremonies to create entheogenic experiences, psychedelic experiences. The next plant that I want to show you is just a stone's throw away as well. It's again growing in the edge of this parking lot. I think you can see here, this is like an old construction staging area leading up into the woods behind the med center. But this plant right here is called sweet wormwood, Artemisia annua. And I'll just hover the camera of it. It's not very impressive right now. It will be in a couple of months. It's a very beautiful little plant. It's called sweet wormwood, and it actually won the Nobel Prize in 2015 for medicine. The scientist who discovered it has synthesized a compound called artemisinin in the plant into kind of one of the leading anti-malarial drugs used internationally right now. So it is quite an impressive plant. There's unfortunately some evidence of resistance to the anti-malarial drug derived from the plant, but it has been a frontline treatment and again has been recognized internationally as with a Nobel Prize. So again, a plant that's just growing kind of in a parking lot here in central Pennsylvania. It's also been used in Chinese traditional medicine for things like fever reduction, reduction of swelling, things of that nature. So a very, very special little plant. I'm going to come down here then and show you another plant. This is called garlic mustard, and it is an invasive plant, probably originated in Europe. The Romans actually put it in their wine because of the peppery flavor that can be derived from it. So it actually it releases a toxic chemical into the soil around it, which prevents other things from growing. So it is a highly invasive plant, but has also been used as an antiseptic. It's a Nebraska family, so it has a compound in it called isothiocyanates, which have been used in anti-malarial research, or excuse me, anti-cancer research, especially anti-melanoma research for the past decade or so. So it's another cool plant. You can eat it. It's high in vitamin C. It's high in omega-3 fatty acids, both of which our bodies don't produce naturally. And again, it's invasive. So if you see it, please pick it and saute it and have a good time with it. But it's another one that's just, again, growing against this concrete slab. But has very rich history and kind of cool stories that connect us back to ancient civilizations. And then I'll just mention one other plant. I may do a separate one on this at some point later in the spring. But if you can see here, this plant with the little barbs on it is called burdock. And it's notable both in a medicinal sense in that it has been used in indigenous medicine and traditional medicine to reduce fever and for GI upset and a variety of ailments. But it's also the plant from which Velcro was derived. So a Swedish engineer noticed that the barbs would stick to his dog when he took the dog out for a walk. And so he kind of looked under a microscope and saw the little hooks that are on these little barbs and designed Velcro based on it. So, kind of imitating the beauty and genius of nature and leading to an innovation of the 20th century. So, again, those are four pretty cool plants that are growing, as you can see, right behind me, right in the footsteps of Hershey Medical Center. So pretty cool, and it's mid-March, so these things are just starting to poke out. A lot more coming, and I'll look forward to making more videos for you guys soon. Hey everybody, I am out in the rain at the moment, right in the meadow behind the medical center. And today the plant that I want to introduce you to is called mullein, and I will just zoom in on it real quick so you can see it. So mullein is just starting to come out here, and the leaves are kind of furry, and they sort of feel like lamb's ear, if you've ever felt that. They're fuzzy, furry, soft to the touch, but the plant ultimately puts up a stalk that ends up getting quite large. So here's one from last year, and it's about, it can get up to 6-7 feet tall, and it puts out this really beautiful yellow flower that is pollinated by bumblebees and hummingbirds. So it's a medicinal herb that's native to North Africa, Central and East Asia, and Europe. And there's a variety of medicinal properties to it. So mullein oil has traditionally been used as a remedy for things like headaches, fevers, cramps, burns, eczema, conditions like that. It's actually still called lungwort in Ireland and in Italy because it was believed to have healing properties for respiratory disease. So that name still is sort of baked into the way people talk about it. More recently, extracts are being used to study things like earaches. So there was actually a randomized control trial a few years ago where extracts from the mullein plant, from the mullein leaves, were compared to antibacterial drops for children's ear pain. And the mullein actually outperformed the antibiotic drops and had less side effects and was cheaper. So that's being studied further. And in general, scientists are trying to do more rigorous analysis of the plant, taking it from more traditional complementary and alternative approaches to actual clinical trials to study antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, anti-depression effects, and other factors. I'll zoom in on the plant again too, because you can see here, kind of maybe get a feel for how soft the plant is and the leaves at the base from which most of the medicine is extracted. But the leaves have also been used in wound healing. So bandages have been created from them. And there's studies going on right now with wound healing to compare mullein bandages to more traditional forms of wound treatment. So it's a very fascinating plant. You'll often see it on the roadsides, driving down the highway. It grows in rocky areas where it gets lots of sun. And again, come June, July, you'll see it shoot up this big stalk, and there will be bright yellow flowers coming out of it. So it's kind of an alien-looking plant, but a very cool one with some traditional and potential allopathic remedies to it. All right, everybody. That was just a quick tour of a few plants that are growing behind our hospital here. Hopefully you enjoyed it and learned something. So I just wanted to signpost to our meeting on May 10th and just briefly go over the assignment that we're going to ask you all to prepare for that session. So we'd just like you to take a look at the link that we're going to provide of all of the specimens of medicinal plants at the Oxford Botanic Garden, and ask you and a partner to identify a specimen that looks interesting to you. You're going to first describe the medicinal value of that plant from a biochemical standpoint, looking at its mechanisms of action, and then documenting its use sort of in allopathic medicine and or folk and traditional medicine. And then, as I sort of did in the video, just try to embed the plant in folklore, in mythology, in cultural belief systems, and just sort of tell the story of how humans have created meaning around it. And then, so during our meeting on May 10th, we'll ask you to basically prepare a few PowerPoint slides to present your findings in no more than 3 minutes. And we're going to ask everybody to limit themselves to 3 minutes, just to make sure everyone gets a chance to share what they've learned. So just very quick, snappy, efficient presentations of the plant that you and your partner have chosen to learn about. Maybe practice in advance a little bit, just so we can have a quick and inspired and efficient session together on May 10th. But I look forward to meeting everybody, and very excited to learn from your deep dives into these medicinal plants. All right, have a good end of the semester.